This is BJJHOOD, tapping into Jiu-Jitsu lives on and off the mats.
We're back. This is the BJJHOOD Podcast. I'm Baby, your host.
And I'm Shay, the co-host.
We're here to share inspirational stories about women in Jiu-Jitsu and how the martial art changed their lives. If you are new here, please don't forget to follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and on your favorite podcast platform. We are there in all these places as BJJHOOD Podcast. On YouTube, if you speak Portuguese, we're going to have subtitles in Portuguese for all the English interviews. And some of our interviews are going to be in Portuguese, so we're going to have English subtitles for that. So make sure you check that out and you give us a follow there. On Instagram, we're always bringing some news about the new podcasts, so make sure you also give us a follow on there too. Today here with us, we have a super special guest, Shama Ko. She has been training Jiu-Jitsu for 20 years. Shama is the program director for Girls in Gis. She began martial arts on the 2000s, like training Muay Thai. She did a little bit of that, and then she started in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She is a black belt, 1 year black belt. So I'll let her introduce herself too, but I just wanted to say hi. Hi, Shama. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate you guys having me a part of this. Uh, so you covered it. I mean, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I used to compete a lot back in the day. I feel very privileged to be able to have come into jiu-jitsu in the time that I did. It was really a very small niche when I first started, and it's amazing to see how much it's grown. I feel very honored to have been a part of that and to have helped to contribute in some small way, I hope, to that growth and that progress, because that's what I really set out to do. I was just a girl in a gi that just wanted to make a difference, and I was hanging out with all my girlfriends, and we started doing these events and traveled it all over the country. And so it's really amazing to say that, I really have been able to, very blessed to be able to live my dream.
That's awesome. I wanted to start asking you, like you already said that uh, when you started jiu-jitsu, it was a small niche. There was not so many people doing it. I always like to ask the girls that are coming to the show how it was when you started. Like, who brought you to jiu-jitsu? How did you find out about jiu-jitsu? And also, like, who were the people around you? There was just like men's. There was some girls. Did you came with some like girlfriends with you for the class? Like, how was this like first step for you?
Okay. I've been around jujitsu for God since probably the late 90s or so, and I had no interest in doing it. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and I had a lot of guy friends, and it was literally like all my high school girlfriends. We could be like, bye, and drop them at jujitsu class, and I was like, not for me. And so they finally convinced me. I stayed friends with them. I actually started dating one for a very long time. And they finally convinced me, like, you need to protect yourself. And like, they were MMA fighters. And I was like, why? I'm hanging out with you guys. And they're like, you're not going to always be with us. And I was like, all right, okay. And so they got me into Muay Thai. And from there, one of the guys who actually became my first instructor, his girlfriend at the time started a women's class in Jiu-Jitsu. And she was like, Shama, I need friends. I need bodies in the room just so I have people in my class. Will you come? And I was like, fine, all right, I'll go. And so I got coerced into jujitsu. And once I got there, I was always kind of a tomboy. Still am. I still love like roughhousing. I mean, that's why I do jujitsu still. And so it was kind of stupid that I hadn't done it earlier, but the timing was perfect. I think it came into my life at the right time to where I took it in a different way that I wouldn't have if I had started when I was like 17.
Uh, Tell me more about it. Like, why you didn't want to do it before? Like, what was stopping it? Was there anything in particular, or?
I was just not interested in martial arts. Like, I'm not interested in the movie. Like, I just never, I, I'm, I'm totally awkward. I'm so uncoordinated. Like, I'm the type of kid my mom would throw into sports just to have after school care. And I was horrible. Like, I scored a goal on my own team type of like they stuck me in the goalie. They're like, okay, you're good at running at things and jumping, and we do not want you on the field kicking anything. So it was horrible at sports. And sports was just like not on my radar at all. And again, I mean, it took me 20 years to get my black belt. I mean, not only because I've had a lot of, trials and tribulations, but like I really did not I had no body awareness at all for at least the first year, didn't have that, even though I had tried to do sports, I just didn't. So it was just not something I was into. And then, like I said, if it wasn't for a fact that it was a woman's class, I don't know if I would have actually started. And I roughed house with my guy friends, so I'm not like afraid of it, but it was just like I'm awkward and I know I'm awkward, and being in a class that's co-ed and being that way just like really intimidated me. So I really had no interest in like humiliating myself like that. But with women, it was like we're all new, we all suck at this, and this is great. Like I don't have anything. You're feeling weird and uncomfortable, and I feel weird and uncomfortable, and let's just be weird and uncomfortable together. Like it was not like you're in this class with all these like big brute like MMA dudes. And I started out at a time with Jiu-Jitsu. There was one gym in Austin, Texas, like literally. And you think about where Austin is now: Flow Grappling, B Team, Gordon, Gracie. There's so many schools there now, but like I was in Austin and there was like one gym. So all the MMA fighters came through there.
Yeah.
What was it that attracted you to actually stay with it? At what moment you said, for me, I want to continue?
Um, It took a while. Like I didn't compete until I was a blue belt. Like I was still kind of a fair weather student, probably the first year. Like I was kind of like in and out. I was breaking up with my boyfriend. My first instructor was my former brother-in-law, and so I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. But I joke and I say I got jujitsu out of the breakup because he stopped training, and now I'm a black belt, and he's still a blue belt, and like. So for like first year it was hard because I was just going through a lot of personal stuff, and then once we broke up, I was married to jujitsu. Like jujitsu became it filled that
I
hole,
love it.
and I think and I dove straight in, and I was like full-time competitor, and like I was a photographer. I was like one of the first sports photographers in jiu-jitsu in Texas. And I'll joke, I don't know if you guys know who Mike Columbus is now. He's huge, but he was shooting with a point and shoot camera and asking me what settings to shoot my camera on. So, ha! No, I joke. He was my best friend. Like, we were having so much fun out there shooting these tournaments in Texas. We had a blast. But yeah, I joke with him and I go, I was a professional before you. Yeah, exactly. But I was like, hell
That's
no. And I even
amazing.
told him, I said, I'm not telling you anything because someday you're going to be my competition. And sure enough, he's bigger, way bigger.
Yeah. So tell me more. Like you said that you didn't start competing until you got to like your blue belt, like half of your blue belt, I think. What made the switch? Like, what made you decide that you really wanted to compete? And tell me a little more about how was the competition at that time, because we were talking about it, and you were explaining to me right when you start competing. That's when IBJJF start having separated brackets for women. Is that one of the reasons you didn't compete before, or no, it was something different?
I just wasn't my goal going into it. So I was out of shape. So it was kind of like, I want to get in shape. And then, like I said, I broke up and then I was just all in. And I was your typical mat rat. Like I was there all the time. And that's when I was like, okay, I really want to take this seriously and I want to start doing competition. And I mean, holy crap, these women today have so many more opportunities than my generation did. Like, there was no paid opportunities really for women in the sport other than maybe teaching the kids. Like, that's really what their future looked like in jiu-jitsu back then. Um, but so back then, Fight to Win was one of the tournament circuits that came through Texas, and they would just do regular tournaments back in those days. And there were not a lot of women, And so I would complain to Seth Daniels and be like, why are you sticking me in a division with women that weigh 40 pounds heavier than me and are two belts up? And that was it. Like, that's your women's division. Do you want to compete or you want your money back? And that's like how most tournaments went back then, because there was just not any opportunities, to even get a match with somebody, let alone your age. Like, we weren't even thinking age. I had to go with the kids like a lot, the teenage girls, like the 17. They were rough. They were some of the most violent competitors I went against. Like,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, I hate when I get to a tournament. When I was a blue belt, they used to put like green or orange belts against me, and I was almost like really close to my 30s already. And I'm like, I can't keep up. Like, I'm not gonna fight this like black belt in a kid body wearing a orange belt. Like, I don't want that. It's horrible. It's worse than fighting anybody else that is like a blue belt, it not even just my age, but like a little bit older than them. It's so bad. I can imagine.
oh yeah. So it was like literally that was every competition. And it got to the point where I had a nemesis who sure doesn't really wasn't mine. But we just always like we were the only two purple. By the time I hit purple belt, it was like even worse. There was like nobody. And it was just me and Sue Osmond, and she was about 10 years older than me. I was in my 20s and she was in her 30s, and she destroyed me over and over and over and over. And it was just I got to the point where it's like, oh great, I'm going to sign up and pay money, get my butt kicked by Sue Osmond again. And, and so that's why I joke and say she was my nemesis. But she's the sweetest, most awesome lady in the world, and I love her. But she actually, I have an interesting story about her. She completely changed my perspective on competition, because I came from this very traditional, um, lack of a better word, kind of Brazilian style gym where everybody else is the enemy. It's just us against the world, and you don't show your jujitsu. Old school, old school. You don't show your jujitsu to anyone. Like, you go in there, you put your gi on, you put your sweats over it, so they don't know who the competitor is. For like, they don't know you're competing. Like, sneaky little tactics like that, which that's how it went. And so like I remember like at one time we went against her, and I just started crying, and I was just like, oh my God, like I'm so tired of losing. Like, I usually go to the bathroom and cry, but I didn't even make it. I just like made it on the side of the mat. And she came up to me and she's like, Shama, every time I see your name on the bracket, I get scared. And that made me cry even more. And I was like, I love you, Sue. I love you. Because it was like, oh my God, she sees, like, I am a threat. Okay, good. like, and
Yes.
so that, like, from that point on, it was just like, Sue and hey, Sue, are you competing at this tournament? Okay. And it was like a challenge. Like, I still haven't beat her, and I'm in my 40s and she's in her 50s. So I'm waiting. Maybe I can get her at some point. but
I love that. It's like, tell me when you have like a little injury or something and sign up for the tournament so maybe I can manage to get somebody on you.
no, but I love her. She's amazing. But I mean, your best of friends come from competition, right? And so from that point, like the only opportunities, it was me or Sue, and so I had to start doing IBJJF. And I was a broke mat rat. I was a photographer, and so I was making just enough money to like pay my bills and eat some food, and I was living the gym rat life. And so going to California or going somewhere else from Texas, where I was living at the time, was really expensive, right? And so, but yeah, I was very fortunate. By the time first year that I went and competed at IBJJF, was a purple belt already, and I think it was around 2007 or six is when they started breaking up the divisions. And I came in and got to be with the purple belts, and then when I was brown, I got to be with the brown belts, and so I kind of followed that like right behind that wave. So I got to be that first generation that got to benefit from it.
That's great. And how does it feel like
Yeah.
looking at the brackets, for example, today when you see, I love to
Oh
say
my
the
God.
words masters because I think it's, if it's not the biggest, I don't think it's biggest than the Brasileiros, but it's one of the biggest tournaments for IBJJF. And that's like the older people, right? Like it's not the young ones for worlds, and it's always so full and so full of women. Like my brackets, they have always like 10, 15 girls on each bracket. Like some brackets are bigger than that. How does it feel for you coming from that background where you had to fight anybody, or like super heavy people, were kids younger than you or older people? Like how does it feel looking at it right now and seeing how much it has grown and how much potential it has to grow from there too?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, back in the day, the Master Worlds was kind of like the joke. Like we'd be like, "Oh, the old people worlds," like we're like, "Who goes to the old people world?" Because we were all still young, right? And now we're all in our 40s and 50s, and we're like, it's super prestigious because we're like, okay, we can't do the Mundials anymore. We got to go do our Master World. So we're gonna bring the class to it, and we're gonna bring the prestige and the credibility to it that wasn't there before. And so it's really cool, one, to see that there are so many people that are sticking with it, especially women, and two, that there's so many women that are coming in later in life and discovering jujitsu and wanting to go out and compete. I mean, I don't think competition is for everybody, but I think it is a crucial step in your journey to really be able to safely execute what you know under pressure. And not only does it help you with your jujitsu, but it helps you in life because how often do you throw yourself into that fight or flight kind of like adrenaline going, hormone, everything's going nuts, and you got to calm and focus and execute. There's not many life situations where you have to do that unless you do other extreme sports like surfing or snowboarding or like stuff like that. But I definitely think like for I don't know. It's so amazing. Like, and I think the potential is limitless because now not only do we have all these women coming in later in life and we're aging up out into the masters divisions. We have this whole generation of young girls that are looking at what we're doing and what the generation before me has been doing and going, wow, I can be a black belt. Wow, I can be a paid competitor. I can make a living off of this. I can own my own gym. Like I said, we went from, oh, your place is with the kids class to now I can own my own gym and I can make a livable income off of this. And mine, it's very few right now, but that is going to grow because I've said it then and I say it now. In a lot of ways, with the exception of some, I think women's jujitsu is a lot more exciting. We take a lot more risks. It's a lot more action packed, and it's just we fight differently, and it brings entertainment value. So I think the opportunities for women to make more money off of this and make a livable, like Gordon Ryan type wages some days, hopefully, that is totally possible.
Yeah. I think it's also about like the girls that are coming right now and they have seen what your generation did, like for my generation or even the younger that are really making a lot of money from like competing and like seminars and stuff like that. Like they can see, for example, what Gordon is doing right now and use that as an example and understand that they can do that too. Because I think a lot of the times the women are we are set on don't talk trash talk anybody, like be nice all the time. And if you want to make a living like Gordon does, I think I don't know him at all, but when I see him after the fights, he looks like a super nice guy. But before that, he trash talks a lot to make the fight interesting. And I think some of the girls are starting to understand that and using a little bit of that too to make people want to watch their fights. I think that helps too. I think it's a long way to get there, and people are starting to see that the fights are more interesting, that they are going for submissions and stuff like that. But I think it's also for us, the women and the competitors, to understand like you can do this, but you gotta make your work too to get there, right? It's like see yourself that you can do that too.
100%, 100%. You got to believe it before it actually happens, for sure.
So tell me more. When did it start the idea of um, creating the Girls in Geese? Like, what was your idea in the beginning? Why did you start that? Tell me a little bit about that part.
So Girls and Geese was started by Ashley Newen. She's out of Houston, and she was literally like, I just want to get more women on the mats. I just want to have more training partners. This was back in 2009. And her husband owned a gym, and so she literally just invited women into her gym, called it Girls and Geese, and taught a little bit of stuff. And it was amazing. For the very first event, there were 15 women and girls that came to it from all over Texas. And back then, that was a lot. Like, that was like we were looking at around going, whoa. And so I came in as a participant, and I think Ashley just kind of created it and was um, I think she had too much on her plate. She started having kids and she opened up a pharmacy. And so I offered, I came in and said, well, I can start helping you. And from then, eventually, I started building the actual Girls and Geese organization and what we have it today because it was very casual. It was like, I want to host at my gym. Let's go to Corpus. I want to host. Let's go to my gym. And I saw issues, like we would a group of my girlfriends would pile in a car and we'd drive to wherever there was a Girls and Geese going on, no matter if it was 2, 3, 4 hours away. And we just wanted to roll. And then the best part was we would go out to eat afterwards and we get to know each other and we talk. And back then, this was just like there was not like social media. There wasn't a lot of like women's groups out there online to be able to talk. So it was really cool to be able to talk to people from different gyms. But on the drive home, it was like, that was a really good event, but this happened. That was a really good event, but that happened. And I said, you know what, we got to get rid of these buts. And I'm going to try and do that. And so that's where I kind of started stepping in because I knew it needed some kind of structure to it because Ashley was very like, here you guys go, just do it. And so, but I've been running and I've built the organization, started in about 2010 is when I stepped in and I got involved. So it was about 6 months into it before I started really focusing on building the organization around it. And then we moved to Colorado. We moved into Colorado. We did our first event, and then it was just like wildfire all over the country. I spent about 7 years going into different states and getting different women to teach and bringing this concept because I knew how special it was to me and my friends, and that's really what I wanted to get involved and do is to just keep making these opportunities possible and make it a fun, safe environment to where there weren't men getting on the mats and rolling with us. It was exactly what Ashley had, started. And the program is exactly as she started. I haven't changed the dang thing. She built a really solid foundation, and it was all about leadership and community and togetherness. And I'm born and raised in Hawaii, so Aloha is a core part of who we are as people. And so I see it now as my way of spreading aloha, spreading love, spreading kindness, throughout the world and bringing the changes that I didn't have. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have that community. And Girls and Geese came in when I was a purple belt already. So I had already been through at least 4 or 5 years of my training before I actually found that connection because I did come from that gym where, again, you don't cross train, you don't interact with the other teams, you don't even try to make friends with and I was like, oh wow, there's other women out there at other gyms, and like we can be together, and we don't have to be competitive with each other. And so, Girls and Geese was like my aha into what jujitsu should be and what I wanted it to be for me.
But very much that culture is still there. Like even if you go to a different gym, it's almost like you're stepping on somebody else's turf, and you don't necessarily know how to like act when you're on somebody's mat. Like, should I have a two check this person out? Should I do? Are they going to be aggressive if I do? So the culture is very much still like to the studios. I think. Cross training just in like our organization. Like I've heard our professor say, "You sure you want to go to because you might your like tips and tricks, if you compete against them." So yeah, still very much there.
Oh, for sure. It hasn't gone away, but it's gotten way better. It's gotten way better. And I mean, jujitsu, American Jiu-Jitsu has its, and you come from Brazil. it's different. It's different, but it's same. Like the American culture has infiltrated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America, 100%, which is, but it's an evolution, right? Jiu-Jitsu came from Japan. So if you trace this back to Japan, to Brazilian culture, those were two polar opposites when they first started, and that mushed together. And then it comes to America, and then that mushed together. So it's like American, Brazilian, Japanese. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like evolving everything. Yeah, it's funny when you say that because that's exactly how I started. Like at my gym, if you wanted to visit another gym, you would have to ask permission to my professor, and if he said no, it's no. And I saw so many people visiting and like kind of like behind his back, and he would be like, "You're out of my gym. Like I don't want you here anymore. You don't respect me. You're out." And nowadays I see that it's so much more open, and I think that's awesome for you to have the opportunity to meet people, because I think, at least for me, me and Shay have talked about it a lot of the times, like the people that are on the mats with you, that's what's going to make you stick with it. It's not just the sport. At some points at your life, like just the sport is not enough. You need the people around you, and when you meet that many people and you see that many stories and the backgrounds and like make friends, or when you compete and you make friends with somebody and you're like, oh, I'm gonna come and visit you at your gym, or if I'm traveling maybe and I want to see a different gym, like I think that's amazing for you to have that opportunity. And I think that's an evolution, and it's a good evolution from what me and you, for example, had when we started.
Oh, for sure. Because and it comes from a place of fear, right? Because if you trace it back, there was one jujitsu academy that it all came from. One. And then somebody got mad at somebody and opened their own gym. And then somebody got mad at somebody. And it's the same pattern. It's in America too. It's the same pattern. It's the same story. And people go, oh, there's politics here. Yeah, it's nothing I haven't heard before. Believe me, I've been around 20 years. I've heard it all. And it's usually the same story. And I get it. It's a sign of betrayal. But what I try to enforce is, you know what? There's enough of the pie to go around. There really is. Like, we are all on the same page. We're all promoting the same damn thing, jujitsu, period. It doesn't matter if it's Gracie Baja, or if it's Gracie Maita or Atos, or, Paragon. It's all jujitsu. Bottom line is we were all on the same mission together, and there is more than enough piece of the pie. And now with the mainstreaming of jujitsu, we can all have a livable wage off of this and not have to fight over students and get bitter with each. I mean, let's like, let it go.
Yeah. There's enough people for everybody. Like it's a need to find.
100%. And it's a revolving door now. It's not like the old days where it was like, oh, nobody knows about jujitsu. We kind of only want like our group, our core group. We don't want all these people coming in. It's like everybody knows that the secret's out. And so the pie, there's enough of the pie for all of us. So let's all get along.
Tell me more, on the Girls and Geese. You guys have this project that you support women that cannot afford either the uniforms or they cannot afford the tuition. How does that program work? And if I don't know if you have this number, but like how many women did you guys help already?
So how the program works is it's open to every women and girls worldwide. It's designed. It started. That was really like the number one reason I got involved in Girls and Geese, other than I really wanted to keep it going, is that I was a poor mat rat competitor, and I was, I was sponsored. I was sponsored by some really good companies, but it wasn't financially enough to get me to the tournaments and to actually pay tuition or to pay the entry fees and stuff. And so, I mean, it was great because I got gear, I had gis, I had rash guard. And so I was looking at like, there's got to be something out there for women and girls that just can't afford to do this. Why isn't there? And so I wanted again to create the solution to what I saw was a problem for not only me, but for a lot of women. And so through the sales of our merchandise online at our events, through the donations, portion of the donations from our events, that we take at the door. It goes into our scholarship program. People can make donations just online um, to the program, and we help women and girls, like I said, worldwide with tuition assistance. Say they want to try jujitsu, start jujitsu, lost their job, whatever. We help them with their tuition. We help them with a uniform, gi, no gi. We also help them with competition stipends, so helping to pay entry fees, helping women travel, accommodations and such. We started the program, gosh, I think it's been like maybe 6 years now or so. And on average, we give out anywhere between about 2 to 3 scholarships a month. Sometimes we do one. Really depends on the funding. So it's been really awesome because we've been able to support women and girls like all over the country, all over the world, and being able to do jujitsu, really, you know.
What qualifies you to be able to have the stipends and, the tuition?
So it is income based. So we do want to make sure that we are hitting disadvantaged individuals. So they can apply online. You apply online. If we ask you to write like a little essay, like tell us about yourself, tell us about your story. And so we have them tell us about that. We have a committee that reviews it every month. They look over the applications that come in, and then they make a selection. From there, if you're selected, we ask you for your financial records to prove your income, and then we vet you basically, and then we do an interview, and then we make our final selection. So it's a whole process. My mom has worked in the nonprofit sector for a very long time, so she kind of helped me develop how to go through this to make sure the right people are getting it, that really need it, because it's not a sponsorship. It doesn't work in the same way as a sponsorship. We want to make sure that you really financially do need this.
Yeah, it's really good. I was even talking to Shay and to another person at a different podcast that we recorded, that she has this dream of like building something like that. And I told Shay, I'm like, I hope one day maybe we are able with the podcast getting like to more people to do something like this, because I think that's what's gonna change, right? Like that's the change that we can make. Like I I am really like blessed to be able to afford jujitsu. I always could afford, but I know there's a lot of people, and like being around so much, I see so many people that come there, they love it. They're like their eyes are like that, and they're like, but I can't pay the price. Like it's too much for me. And it's so sad to see them leaving, and like there's not much we can do about it. So if we're able to get to a point where we can help more people, I think that's an amazing idea. And you were talking about like that some of the money that you guys collect come from the events that you do. How does it work for the gyms, like to get the Girls and Geese events? Do you guys to go to every like to some gyms? Like how do you bring the events to your gym?
So you can sign up online to host. It's on our website, Girls and Geese, again, girlsandgeese.com. And from there you'll get all the information, what requirements we have to host, go over the logistical stuff. And once we have a spot on our schedule, say um, we're setting up our schedule for January, and we're doing an event in Georgia. Once we have an availability, then we contact you after we've made sure that, we do have some requirements, of course, based on the size of the events and, set up at the gym. Like it's really hard if you only have one bathroom and you got 100 women there and stuff like that. So like we go through everything to talk to them about getting that set up. And then once we have an opening, like I said, we just contact you, and then I do all the scheduling. I do have a team. I mean, I started off doing Girls and Geese probably by myself for the first, oh gosh, at least the first 10 years or so. I was doing everything by myself, and I burnt out. I got really sick, and I was like, I can't do this anymore by myself. And so now, years later, I've been able to build up a really solid, amazing team that helps me with all areas. And so, but I still do the scheduling for all the events and coordinating and logistics.
That's awesome. And you guys do some tournaments too, right? If I'm not wrong.
No, we have never done a tournament. I have mixed feelings with doing a tournament, in that, we're promoting unity and togetherness, but I do believe that you can take that concept and do a tournament as well. And so I finally broke down. I was like, okay, we should do a tournament at some point. They've been bugging me for years, like, when are you guys gonna do a tournament? When are you gonna do a tournament? So it's been on my radar. But we do seminars, we've done camps. But literally for the past since the pandemic, at least, we've just been focusing on getting the events back up and going.
That's awesome. And what are your future plans for it? Like, do you have anything other than the tournaments that are on your books there that you want to build that? Or you think you guys have everything that you needed, everything that you wanted nowadays?
I think there's always room for growth. I have a lot of ideas. Like I don't I had a lot of ideas that I've had for a very long time, and it's like, okay, where's the time to do it? And so I I mean, there's stuff coming. Nothing I want to like officially announce yet, but there's definitely a lot of things that are coming. Finally, starting to like happen after like years and years and years of like, we should do this. Um, but yeah, so no, it is a process.
It's a little process, right?
Well,
Like
and
to
and I
get from
see
the
what we
idea.
do as serving the community. So where's the need? And that's where I'm always looking at, is where is that need that we can fill. And so, yeah, I think that, I mean, I I am honored that we've gotten to be a part of the growth of women's jiu-jitsu for sure, but I definitely want to continue to foster that as we move forward into wherever we go next.
I was just gonna ask in the sense of like, you are really geared towards like women to for people that want to get more women into the gym, like what is your advice to get them? Because it's not for everybody right at first, and it wasn't like for you at first either, right? So for those people that are teetering, like how do you get them to want to do jiu-jitsu? Like I always like call my friends to do it, and they're like, no, no, no. And even for years, like kind of like get them to like break down. So like, what is your advice?
How do you break somebody down and get them to go to jujitsu?
I mean, essentially for most women, like you really do have to kind of break them down because a lot of being close to somebody, there's somebody sweating on you, it's not normal for women and adults in general.
I, you know, it just takes one. It just takes one woman on the mat for them to see, that shows that they can go do it. Like a lot of the times, kids class, right? There's always, at least typically, there are women helping with the kids class. And so a lot of the moms come to that. And I see a lot of moms coming in that way now, because they are just sitting there and they're like, well, I could, actually do this. But I just, over and over, I mean, it took me like about 5 years at least of convincing to finally get me on the mat. So eventually you're gonna wear them down if you just keep asking. But women, don't give up. And I swear to God, women's only classes, when gyms ask me how can we get more women in the class in our school, women's only classes taught by a woman, even if she's a blue belt. Even if she's a blue belt, do that. That's number one. Because again, a lot of women are like myself, where we don't have a lot of body awareness. And that's probably, it comes from a place of self-consciousness and why they don't want to try it, right? For some women, where they just, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it's close contact, it's closer probably than you've been to anybody else other than the people you're intimate with, and so it's weird. But having that women's only class, like I said, it finally broke me. That's what broke me down eventually.
I feel that helps a lot. And I also see a lot of like on our school, we started doing some self-defense class like weekly, not just events. And I feel that that helps too, because a lot of the women are like, but I don't want to do jujitsu. I want to do just self-defense. And I'm like, okay, let's start doing just the self-defense. And then you promise me maybe after a couple weeks, you're going to do one jujitsu class, because jujitsu is self-defense. So like, let's break it down on the like small steps. Let's do just this part here. You don't have to be so close all the time to anybody. You're gonna be working just with the girls, and then at some point we can start moving you and like pushing you towards the jiu-jitsu class, because they're gonna feel more comfortable. Like they're gonna see and understand of, okay, that's fine, like I'm gonna be fine. They're not gonna hurt me. I'm in a safe space here just with the girls, and like you said, with the girls teaching. And I think that's been helping a lot. Like you can open the doors for so many more women. And all the talking too with the kids classes, if you don't talk to the moms and you're like, hey, this is good for you too, you should come and do this, maybe they never gonna think about it, because sometimes when they're sitting there, they're just like, this is my like 1 hour to relax and right, like just try to leave my kid there. Yes, I don't have to worry about my kid right now. But in some of them that are a little more like sportsy, let's say like that, they might have interest. But if you keep talking to them and showing them what are the benefits of jujitsu, at some point they will at least come for a class. And it's like jujitsu might not be for you, and it's not for everybody, and I understand that. But give it a try at least once. Like if you hate it, that's fine. Don't ever put your foot on the mat again. But you might love it, and it might change your life. So just give it a try at least once, right?
No, 100%. 100%.
Shama, tell me more. I want to go back a little more, like to yourself and your story. How jiu-jitsu changed you, like as a person. We talk a lot about the benefits of jiu-jitsu on your body, on your health, on your mental health, on your relationships with everybody. We that have been doing jiu-jitsu for a while, we know the difference that it makes. For you personally, like what are the things that you can say, maybe I would never be like this or do this if I haven't done jiu-jitsu?
I think, I mean, there's so many, I've been doing it for 20 years, so there's so many different, I like to say I've lived so many lives, and then I've lived so many lives within my jujitsu life, you know? So there's so many different things that it's changed me at that point that I needed to be changed. It humbled my ego, you know? It got me to, I'm stubborn as hell, and I'm still stubborn, but it's broken me down, you know, like I'm trying. But I think the most important thing that I can see sitting at where I'm at now is that jujitsu prepared me for not only being able to defend myself and to look at taking better care of myself, but how to navigate life better. And really been like the lessons I've learned on the mats have prepared me for what life has thrown at me, and I feel a lot more prepared for that because I have jujitsu. And I think that's the most important thing. Like where I sit right now, like that's where I'm at as far as the lessons go. But there's been so many like along the way that it's been hard knock after hard knock after. Okay, you got to learn that one and again and a second time and a third. I mean, I was a purple belt for 8 years. I was a brown belt for 8 years, and I mean everything that I mean, all the oh, why am I not getting promoted? You know, I mean, everything that women and people have gone through in their journey, I guarantee I've hit all of them, you know, where it's like, oh, I suck and that's why I'm not getting promoted. And like, but you know what? I'm glad I didn't get promoted because, you know, it taught me some really hard lessons along the way because it was like, shut up and enjoy the ride. It doesn't freaking matter, you know? And that's why, like, by the time I got my black belt, I was like, if I'm a brown belt for life, then I'm a brown belt for life. You know, I don't give a crap. Like, that means nothing to me at all. It's what I'm learning and I'm enjoying the ride as opposed to always looking forward to, like, okay, when I get there, then I'll hit that point, like I'll finally achieve that. It's just finally being able to understand what it means to be in the moment, not only in the mats, in the matches, but in my journey as well.
Uh-huh. I tell a lot of people, I ask them when they're like questioning about promotions and stuff. I'm like, when you get your black belt, for example, or whatever belt they're looking for, right? The next one, are you gonna quit? Like, what's the point? Like, are you got the belt and then tomorrow you don't come anymore? Is that what's gonna happen? Because from like what I see, I could get my black belt today. I will keep tomorrow is another day. I'll come again. I'll do the same classes. I will train again. I know it's important, and we all want that, of course. I'm not gonna lie. We want to be promoted. We want to feel that we are progressing. That's how we feel that, right? But it's like, it's not gonna change everything for you. You're gonna come tomorrow, so keep coming. Just keep coming, and like stop worrying so much about like the belt, the stripe, whatever is gonna happen tomorrow, because you're not enjoying where you are today and what you have today. And I think it's really cool for you to talk about that and be like, 8 years. Some people haven't trained jiu-jitsu for 8 years and they got their black belt. So it's like, what is your advice? I don't know if there's any other advice on like, have you ever thought about quitting while in this journey? Like, what kept you there? Because I'm sure some people might be going through this right now. Like, I'm not never getting promoted. I'm just gonna quit and go find something else. Maybe I'm not like built for this. Like, why should they stay? I know you have, every person's gonna have their own reasons, and you did talk a little bit about it. But what do you just would you say to like this person?
You say, when did I not think of quitting? I wanted to quit so many times. And it keeps dragging me back, and I have, and no, it just, yeah, again, you know what? I think getting passed up in your promotion is good for you. Why? Because it humbles your ass, like as simple as it can get. Is because you know what? And it's not going to be your day every day. And you don't do you need that gold star? Like really that's what it is. Like it's just a gold star because the knowledge that you're taking in and what you're learning, that's the real prize. Like, who gives a crap about this, like, material? But it took me a really long time to realize that, like, I hated going to promotions because I was like, oh, here I go. I'm going to get passed up again, like, I swear to God. But all I can say, again, is just enjoy the journey. Don't ever, and I've done it so many times, don't ever compare your journey to somebody else's because you don't know what their journey's like. You're only seeing the surface level. You're not seeing what's going on underneath, and so your journey is unique to you, and make the best of it. That's all I can. It's like life. Again, it's like life. We don't know what each chapter in life is going to bring. It's unexpected. And again, if you're chasing after all the gold stars, you're never going to enjoy the real prizes that are right in front of you that you're learning, that you don't even realize that you're learning, And so, I mean, if you want to quit, jiu-jitsu is always going to be there. It's always going to be there if you decide to come back. I think it's good to quit for periods of time. I was I was forced. All my quits were forced. I got forced with an injury, then I got forced with illness, and now I'm forced with illness again. And so, but the third time that I've had to quit, like I just like it's gonna be there. It's just a part of me. Like I don't even have to stress about it. I don't need to like obsess about it. I'm not sitting there crying. Oh, I can't go to jujitsu class. But it took me a very long time to get to this point. Like the first time I had to quit, like it felt like my heart got ripped out. My identity was gone. That's the number one thing that I think a lot of us do is we wrap our identity up in jujitsu. We wrap our identity up in being a competitor. And that is a dangerous mistake that a lot of us have to learn, is that it's a part of you, but it's not you. And so when you start putting your value and your identity into your jiu-jitsu journey and things like competition, it's again, it's a slippery slope because you can have your whole self-esteem just go to crap if you lose and you lose and you lose, but that's all about part of the process.
I think that's the biggest lesson for me with jiu-jitsu is being humbled over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, from the mat, like every day on the mat getting choked out, or have it be a competition, or just like your communication style, right, with other people within the gym. Like you literally are time and time again being humbled by the sport, and for me, that's my biggest like learning curve that continues.
But it's good though. It's going to make you into an even better person than you are.
And I think you learn that's ever gonna happen. Like it's gonna keep happening. But you've been there already. You know what it feels like, and again, like you said, it's gonna be always there for you. You can always come back to it. It's always gonna be there. So if you do need to take a break, do it. Take your time, and come back when you're ready. I think that's awesome.
I'm right there with you. It took what was it, Babby? 12 years to get my purple. So
Make fun of Shay that she needed to wait all this time so she could meet me when I came to the US. Maybe if she didn't, she wouldn't be my friend. So lucky she, lucky her.
I know. Very true, very true.
Awesome. Shama, I just want you to if you have like a message for the girls that are scared to start, or that I don't know, that have been thinking about jiu-jitsu, or that have never done jiu-jitsu in their life, what would be your message for these girls?
Jiu-jitsu is a tool, and it's a tool that can help you empower yourself. It's a tool that can teach you lessons, as we talked about. It's a tool that can help towards your self-development. It can help you protect yourself, but it's not gonna, like you said, it's not gonna be for everybody. And maybe your tool is yoga, or maybe your tool is surfing, or maybe your tool is pottery. I don't know. Whatever makes you happy and gives you that fulfillment and that purpose, that's really what we're seeking after, all of us. That's why we all go into jujitsu. And so if it's not the tool for you, then keep looking. That's what I tell people is just don't stop looking for those opportunities to make yourself a better person. Because if we all keep developing as humans, it's just going to be a better world for all of us and for the generations that follow us.
There's that hippie nature that I read about.
Oh, I'm total hippie. I am a total people.
I read a line that you were raised on a goat farm. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, my parents were like full on like hippies. So it passed on, no. But they had that was an amazing awakening of a bunch of people that came together and there was other factors, but like that came together to better the world. And so I feel very honored that my parents were hippies because I got to learn from that philosophy and it opened my mind up to so many different types of people too. You're being very accepting. And that's the beautiful thing about jujitsu is we are a melting pot. It's amazing. Jiu-jitsu is, Hawaii is a melting pot. That's how I was born and raised. That's why I think I love Hawaii and jiu-jitsu are like this. You throw a rock, you can hit a jiu-jitsu gym out here. It's because of the same thing. It's all about, even though we're choking the crap out of each other, we love each other and we respect each other. And maybe, like you said, like maybe some people are using trash talking to like hype it up, but at the bottom of the day, like so many of us, we really respect each other, because we know how hard it is. We all know how hard it is.
Yes, and I think that's the beauty of it. Like when you see at the end of the matches, most of the people they're hugging each other, they're smiling. It's a couple that you're gonna see that are gonna be mad or like I don't know, throwing a tantrum there. But most of them, they're happy just to be there. They're happy to be doing it. Of course, everybody wants to win when it comes to a match, but just being able to be part of this, I think that's the most important part of it. Um, Shama, thank you so much.
Wait. I have one more question. I know. One last question because last time I didn't do it.
Yeah, she always has one, and I cut her, like, don't let her ask her questions. Go for it.
What's your favorite move? On the gym and the mats or in competition? What's your like favorite move?
Oh gosh, it's changed so many times. Um,
Well,
currently,
currently.
I love the Peruvian necktie. Like that is like watch out for me if you go into turtle.
I would be like, because I'm always going to Turtle, you would get me all the time.
Sneaky
I am
jujitsu
a sneaky.
player. Like I think that's why I like jujitsu so much. Is like I am sneaky on the mat. Like I love a good sneak attack where you think that you're safe, but like, I'm a big kid. I'm a big. You people. You'll hear me giggling and be like, "Oh, Shama's here."
That's
I
awesome.
love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Shema, for taking the time for talking to us today. For opening it up a little bit with your story and your goals and everything that Jiu-Jitsu has done to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate both of you having me on today.
Of course. For you that are listening to this episode, make sure you share with somebody. I'm sure everybody can take a little bit of what we've shared today here, all the stories that we talked about. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, on YouTube, with subtitles in Portuguese for our interviews, and on your favorite podcast platform, so you can have access to all the episodes, the last ones that we did, and the future ones. You're going to get notifications every time we have a new episode coming out. So I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Would you like to share your story? Email us at bjjhoodpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at BJJHOOD Podcast.